Can the Aggies finally make history and win in Death Valley?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are Locked On the Texas A&M Aggies. I am your host, Matt Galatzan of Texas A&M Aggies on SI. Thank you so much for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. I am joined, as usual, on Thursdays by my guy, DJ Burton of Texas A&M Aggies on SI. And it's that time of the week, DJ. It's time for bold predictions. It's time for X Factors. It's time for Matt and DJ's school for kids who can't gamble good. Because we have sucked in the prop bet department so far this year, but that's okay. We're going to rectify that this week. Let's start with bold predictions, though, DJ. This is a huge game for Texas A&M. Obviously, they're 7-0 for the first time since 1994. Just so happens that they are going into Death Valley, where they have not won since 1994. I believe that was an 18-13 win by the Aggies under R.C. Slocum. So, you know, a lot of people, including yourself. How old are you, DJ?
22.
22. So you were, what, 2 years old when this happened? When the Aggies last beat?
I wasn't even thought of for another 10 years. Yeah.
You were 10 years removed. That's math live on air. Yeah, so you weren't even alive the last time the Aggies won in Death Valley.
Not even thought of.
You were a sparkle in your parents' eyes.
Yep.
That means something. 31 years since the Aggies have won in Death Valley. So my first bold prediction, DJ, the Aggies make history and they win in Death Valley.
I like that. You know, there's just some games that you get a gut feeling about, and it's like the Aggies are going to win that one. And, you know, looking at the schedule going into the year, that was one that I had kind of that feeling about even before all the success. So I'd be really excited to see if they can go in there and do it. My first bold prediction for A&M is just going to kind of piggyback on that. I think the Aggies are going to go in there and win. I think they're going to make history in that front. But I think they're going to do it on the back of the best rushing performance they have of the year.
Okay. I like that. So that would entail what exactly? Because Texas A&M won last week against Arkansas, and they had over 200 yards rushing. Let's see if I can pull up. Okay, so let's go through their performances rushing this season real quick and see where that could stack up. Because this is interesting, because I really like this one. They had over 200 against Arkansas. Against UTSA in the season opener, they had 108, so not great. Against Utah State, they had 235. So your number's getting up there, DJ. Against Mississippi State, they had 299. Against Florida, 183. So the Aggies have to get 300 yards rushing in this game. That's what you're predicting?
Yeah, I think they'll do it. I think we're going to see it. Ruben O'Rourke, he seems to be kind of stepping into that workhorse role. I think that you're going to see, E.J. Smith getting in there. Every game that he's been playing in since Moss got down, he's been getting better and better. And then I think Jamarian Morrow is going to pick up the slack for the rest of the yardage there. And I actually don't think that Marcel Reed's going to be as much of a factor in the run game. I think LSU watched him, gash him last year. So I think they're going to be really locked in on him, and they're not going to let him make as much of an impact with his legs.
I really like this because this is the definition of bold predictions. This is a good one because I think you could be right, and it's going to shock a lot of people. I think Jamarian Morrow is a dude, and I think he's gonna have a big game here, and I think that they need to run the football effectively in this game to win as well because it's going to be a very hostile environment, and that's a good way to take the crowd out of the game. All right, my next bold prediction, DJ. I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball for the Aggies, and I am going to predict that. Let me make sure. Hold on. Let me make sure that I'm not wrong about this before I actually make the prediction. I'm just going to double check the stat real quick. Okay, that's what I thought. Des Ricks gets his first interception of the year and his second interception of the year. He picks off Garrett Nussmeier twice and changes the game for this Aggie defense.
I like that one. Nussmeier threw 3 picks, I think, last year against the Aggies in Kyle Field. So I personally thought that was, an aspect of Kyle Field. You have the 12th man, night game, everything's loud and rowdy. I thought it was a product of that and just kind of being flustered with everything. Pass rush was showing some sort of life, which didn't really happen too often last year. But I really think that this A&M defense is in a better spot than it was last year, especially with the pass rush. And if the pass rush starts getting home, I wouldn't be surprised seeing Nussmeier start, kind of rushing those throws that he'd usually a little bit more time. And I like that. I like that prediction a lot.
All right, give me your next one, DJ.
I think it's going to be pretty similar to last season's game against the Aggies. I think Nussmeier and the LSU offense is just going to gash this secondary. Last year they put up 400 passing yards. I think they'll get near that again. I just don't. I don't think it'll be enough, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a day.
Okay, I like that. Last year's game was one of the more exciting games that that we've had in that series because Texas A&M had that big comeback, and it's this game always seems to get a little weird. So I think one of the things that Texas A&M hasn't really done this year outside of Notre Dame really is have a big comeback. So if LSU kind of jumps out early, I can see A&M fighting their way back in this game because I think Mike Elko has these kids believing. And I like that. I like that one a lot. All right, let's change gears. When we come back, we are going to get into our X factors and a new little wrinkle we're adding to this: our MVPs of the game on Saturday. So stick with us after this break, and we will be right back. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer service communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep businesses moving even when you're off the clock. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockdowncollege. That's QUO.com/lockdowncollege. You can even keep your existing number for free. Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many different ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. It's time for X Factors. Our picks for who is going to make a difference in this football game that maybe isn't the star that we all think going into the game, like Garrett Nussmeier, like a Marcel Reed, Mario Craver, someone like that. But someone who's going to fly in under the radar and shock everyone and make a key play in the game that is going to put them over the top. I am going to go first here, and I am going to go with a receiver who really I felt came on last week against the Arkansas Razorbacks. I've been waiting for him to kind of, to get going so far this season. He's been kind of right there. But ABR, Ashton Bethel-Roman, had a big game against Arkansas last week, 4 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown. He finally found that connection with Marcel Reed. And against a secondary that's very talented in LSU, that is going to be hyper-focused on Craver and Concepcion and Bussy, ABR may have some opportunities in this game to make a big play that could make a difference.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's in one of those spots where, he might have the most favorable spot in that A&M wide receiver room. He's just he's poised to, have big games every single game because you have these talented receivers around him that he's just as talented as, and he's just flying under the radar, just out of the numbers that these guys have put up. And, these defenses have to lock in on those guys, and it just lets him sneak in the back door.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. Give me your first one, DJ.
Awesome. I have I'm going to stick with the A&M offense. I have EJ Smith. I said it earlier. He's been one of those guys that, every time he's touched the ball these past few games, he's gotten better. He hasn't really had too much production for A&M in his time there, but, it's snowballing. He's starting to, rack up game after game. And he hasn't scored a touchdown since week 1 against UTSA. I think he'll get another one here.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got a really good chance. He is very much filling in a similar role to what he did last year after Le'Veon Moss went down. And now he's got another opportunity to step up in a big way and help carry that load for Ruben Owens and Amari Daniels, keep that running game on track. And I think he's got a really good shot to do so. To move to the defensive side of the ball, I was going to put in another offensive player. But for me on defense for Texas A&M, I'm going to go with Dalton Brooks. He had a really nice game last week against Arkansas. He was key in that win for them. He had 9 total tackles. He had a sack. And, I know that Garrett Nussmeier isn't exactly the most mobile guy in the world. If there's a statue at quarterback in the SEC, it's probably Garrett Nussmeier. But he can pick you apart. And I think the Aggies are going to need excellent safety play in this game to keep LSU's offense in check. So I think Dalton Brooks is going to step up and have a big game for them in that department.
Yeah, he's been one of those guys that it's just kind of, every time he stepped on the field, it's like, why wasn't this kid on there sooner? He's been absolutely electric for the Aggies. And Nussmeier's one of those guys. He's going to sit back there and throw it all over the yard. You're going to need everybody clicking in that secondary, and it ultimately starts with the safeties, because if the safeties aren't on, the cornerbacks can't afford to make mistakes, and when they're thinking about that, the mistakes come. So having strong safeties back there, it's going to be key for this Aggie defense.
Yeah, I mean they need all the help they can get. All right, let's move to the LSU. Actually, you have a defensive player, don't you, DJ?
Yeah, I do. I have Tyreek Chappelle. I think he's been crucial this season. He was crucial last season. He goes down with that injury. You see that secondary kind of fall apart. I think he's essentially the glue that keeps this defensive, passing defense just kind of. He's what keeps it together, and him having a good day just kind of impacts the rest of the game, the rest of the team.
Yeah, he's a key cog in that secondary, and I think that he's just, he's one of those unsung guys that really makes a big impact. And I know that he's technically responsible for the $50,000 fine from the SEC, but he's going to make up for that this week against LSU.
Yeah.
All right, let's move over to the LSU Tigers. I'm going to go first on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm going to go with Trey'Dez Green. This guy has been absolutely huge for Texas A&M when he has been on the field. He is a matchup nightmare. He's 6'7", absolute monster of a human being. But he's been hurt, so you haven't really heard a whole lot about him this entire season. And he had a good game against Clemson. He was key in the Clemson game, and then he missed the next 4. He has played in the last 3 games. He had 8 catches for 119 yards and a touchdown against South Carolina, 5 receptions for 74 and a score last weekend against Vanderbilt. And in total this season, in the 4 games that he has played, he has 15 catches for 210 yards and 3 scores. He's a red zone target. He's a guy that Garrett Nussmeier can rely on in a big way, and he's a bit of a physical freak. So I think that he is going to have another big one here for Texas A&M. Against Texas A&M for the Tigers, and continue his streak, because it's now 2 games in a row that he has had big games, and he's got a touchdown in every game he's played this season. So I think that he could do that again this week.
He's definitely a scary dude. He's 6'7". He's a tight end, but he moves like a receiver. Last year, he kind of filled the slot role for him, which is scary. Tight ends should not be fast enough to play in the slot, but he is. He's one of those matchup nightmares. But I really don't know. As a coach, what do you do to scheme against a guy like this? You can't put a linebacker on him because they're not going to be fast enough. And you can't put a safety on him because they're not going to be big enough to body him in the red zone. It's just a matchup nightmare.
Yeah,
and I think he could really cause issues for A&M.
Yeah, it's excuse me. It's a very dicey situation when you've got a guy with those kind of athletic gifts. All you can do is kind of hope for the best, depending on who you're matching him up against. Dalton Brooks isn't the biggest guy in the world. He's 6 foot, 193 pounds or whatever it is. I don't think that Torian York is quick enough to keep up with him. That's no disrespect to Torian York. Or Damian Sanford. I don't know that they're fast enough to keep up with them. Marcus Ratcliffe might be your best option. 6'2", 209 pounds. That's still 5 inches and 31 pounds lighter than Trey'Dez Green.
That's crazy.
He's probably just as fast as Marcus Ratcliffe, if not faster. So that should be interesting. Give me your first offensive X factor there, DJ.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Xavier Thomas, the wide receiver. He's been kind of the third wide receiver on the depth chart for them. But he kind of reminds me of Mario Craver a little bit. He's had 13.6 yards per reception, 259 yards on the season, and 3 touchdowns. He's one of those guys. He's a burner. Kind of get him in space, and he'll go. He can score from anywhere on the field. He's he's one of those guys that can turn it around if A&M's defense isn't paying attention. If they're, too caught in on the big tight end, or just caught sleeping, focusing on the run, he can burn you and he can torch you and he'll make you pay.
All right, let's fly through these defensive ones for LSU because we're running a little long on this segment. I'm going to go with AJ Halsey, the safety. I know he's their leading tackler, so that's not exactly an X factor in terms of statistical output, but I think that he's just going to play such a big role in slowing down this Texas A&M rushing attack and slowing down that deep passing attack. He's just going to be critical for them defensively all over the field in every scenario.
Yeah, definitely. For me, LSU defensively, I'm going to go with Devon Keys. Whit Weeks it's looking like he's not going to be in. And Keys looked pretty good against Vanderbilt, filling that role for him. He had 9 tackles, and I think a lot of LSU success defensively can come on how well he can fill that role.
Okay, give me your MVP of the game. It can come from either side of the ball or either team.
I'm going to go with Cassius Howell. That dude's just an absolute nightmare. He's a game wrecker, and if he gets hot, he's hot. And with a guy like Garrett Nussmeier, he can't get away from him. So I think if Howell gets hot and starts bullying that tackle, he'll have a day, and he'll be what turns the tide of the game for the Aggies.
I like that. I'm going to go on the offensive side of the ball. I'm going to say KC Concepcion. This just feels like a game where he's going to break a couple of big plays, maybe a long touchdown in the receiving game, maybe a punt return touchdown, something. He's going to do something in this game that is going to break it wide open for the Aggies, and I think he's going to be a major problem for LSU all over the field. All right, time for our next break. When we come back, we're going to get into Matt and DJ School for kids who can't gamble good. So stick with us after this break, and we'll be right back. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. And you can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, time to get into some prop bet action. We might even, pick the spread in this game, I think, as well. But in the over/under and do all of the things because it's a gambling segment. So why not? Brought to you by FanDuel. Here's a little tag there for FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app today. All right. Let's get into it, DJ. Do you want to start on the spread, or do you want to start on the prop bets?
Let's start on the prop bets. Let's finish it with the spread.
Okay, I like that. All right, we are going to start with passing. Garrett Nussmeier is projected at over under 231.5 yards. Marcel Reed is over under 219.5 yards. I'm going to go with Garrett Nussmeier getting over because I think they're just going to have to throw the ball if they're going to score in this football game. So I'm going to go over on Nussmeier, and I'm actually going to go under on Marcel Reed because I think Texas A&M is going to try and control the ground and run it down LSU's throat.
I think I'm going to go over on both. I think Nussmeier's due for a big number game. He touched 400 last year. I think he'll get close to that. I don't know if it'll necessarily be 400, but I can see him getting up into the 350 range. And then for Reed, I think he's going to try and use his legs a little bit. But like I said, I think LSU is going to have that kind of locked under. So whenever he's not handing the ball off, I think he's going to be throwing it. So I think he'll hit that.
Okay. I like that. All right, let's move on to rushing. We've got Ruben Owens over under 70, Caden Durham for LSU over under 50.5, and Marcel Reed over under 31.5. I'll start again. I'm going to go with over for Ruben Owens because I think that you're absolutely right. I think they're going to run the ball down LSU's throat in this game, and I think he's going to be a major factor in that regard. I'm going to go under for Caden Durham because I don't think that he could get 50 yards rushing against any SEC defense, to my knowledge. They just cannot run the football effectively whatsoever. And I mean, he got 70 against South Carolina. He got 59 against Vanderbilt, but a lot of those are chunk plays. I guess he got 93 against Florida. I'm full of it. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't think he's going to get it against this defense. I think they're going to hold him in check because LSU really does struggle to run the football. So I think that's going to play a factor. And anytime you give me a 30 number with Marcel Reed, I'm going to go over because he can do that in one play. So I'm just going to be safe and take the over there.
Yeah, I agree with you on all three of those. I think A&M's defense struggled against the run last week. I think it's one of those things where, they had it figured out for a few weeks there. I think they'll really focus on it, and I think they'll limit it this week. I think Ruben Owens is going to hammer that. I think he's going to be their workhorse. He's going to smash that number. And then Marcel Reed's the one that gets me. I think he's, not going to do as much with his legs, but I feel like 30 yards is that's easy for him. So I think I'm going to go with the over on that one too.
Yeah, it's just too low of a number for me.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that he doesn't hit that. Okay, let's move on to receiving real quick. We'll fly through these, and then we'll get to picking the spread and the over-under for the game and such. Mario Craver over-under 75.5. Then you have Casey Concepcion over-under 58.5. Barian Brown from LSU over-under 44.5. And Trey'Dez Green over-under 40.5. I'm going to go over for all four of these guys. I'm not even going to break them down individually. I just think that there's going to be a lot of throwing in this football game from LSU. I think that these A&M receivers are they're just too explosive for me to believe that they're going to do anything other than get close to 75 to 100 yards every game. So until they prove me wrong, then I'm going to keep betting on that. And then I obviously picked Trey'Dez Green as my X factor, so I think he's going to go over. And Barian Brown's just due for a breakout performance, so I think he might hit that this week.
Yeah, I completely agree in all facets there. Nussmeier can't throw for 400 yards by himself. So I think LSU's receivers are definitely going to hit that mark. I think A&M's receivers are going to hit that mark. I think there's going to be a lot of throwing in this game, but at the same time, I think A&M's going to try to pound it.
Yeah, could not agree more. All right, let's close this out with the spread and the over/under for the game. 6:30 p.m. kickoff at Tiger Stadium. 31% chance of rain. 76 degrees outside. 8 mile an hour per winds are the projections. Texas A&M is currently sitting as 2.5-point favorites over the Tigers. The over/under is set at 48.5. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think the Aggies win this thing. I think they win this thing by a touchdown. So I'm going to say the Aggies cover the spread. I'm going to say that this game hits the over. And I am going to say, you don't have to give me a final score if you don't want to, DJ, but you're welcome to. I am going to say that the final score of this football game is 31-24 Texas A&M.
Okay, yeah, I like that. I'm kind of on the same page here. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think they're going to nail the over. And then I think that A&M is going to cover the spread, but barely. I think it's going to be Aggies by 3. I think it's going to be Texas A&M 45, LSU 42.
Okay, that's a real high. That's actually a high scoring one. Mine doesn't seem high scoring, but it feels like it's high scoring for college football this year for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
It does. It is the over. So you've got the over. You've got Texas A&M covering, and you've got 45-42 Texas A&M over LSU. I have got uh, I have got the over. I have got Texas A&M covering, and I have the Aggies winning 31-24. We will be back with a couple more shows this week to preview this huge matchup for Texas A&M, and kind of break down all the other facets that we haven't covered quite yet. So make sure you check those out as the week continues. But thank you so much for making Locked On Aggies your first listen today. For your next listen, please check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy breaks down the best conference in college sports, from the rivalries to the championship and every game in between. Find Locked On SEC on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Don't forget to like the videos, subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our podcast. Give me a follow on X at Matt Galatzan. Give DJ a follow on X at DJ Burt. Follow us both on Texas A&M Aggies on SI. DJ does some kick-ass work over there. And we will see you next time.